So Barry Obama was in a little meeting about the debt ceiling with a lot of people, among them the vivacious Eric Cantor, who I just want to stress, because the news has been acting like we know for sure what happened. We don't know for sure what happened. We have the GOP version of what happened, and then we have the Democratic aides version of what happened. The GOP claims that Barack Obama walked out in a great old huff.
Lit the table on fire.
Yes. Shat in the corner for no reason, completely unprovoked.
Punched Malia in the face.
Yep.
Threw Sasha at John Boehner.
Yep.
While Sasha was doing the pinwheel arms.
And saying, hiya!
Ah!
Yeah. And then left when they were, very politely, they claim, trying to ask follow-up questions about a temporary raise of the debt ceiling.
Just like they very politely tried to bring democracy to Iraq and Afghanistan.
Or, very politely tried to bring the U.S. economy to a screeching halt.
Right.
They are gentlemen. Now, the Democratic aides version of what happened was that the president was very polite and stayed longer than he was supposed to and was fielding questions and everything. And Eric Cantor was just determined to run this thing into the ground and just kept asking repeatedly the same question that Barack Obama has already answered. And Barack Obama allegedly, or actually they do agree that this was said, Eric, don't call my bluff. And then he said, I'm not budging on this. If this brings down my presidency, so be it. But I'm not caving on this. Essentially, I'm paraphrasing a little bit. And then he left. So it's pretty different, the two versions.
No flying Sasha pinwheel arms.
No.
All right.
One is him being a firm leader, and the other is him being very disrespectful and sort of shouting down dissidents. Which, you and I criticize the president all the time, but does that seem like in his character to start yelling at people? That seems weird.
Yeah. Both are braver than he's ever been.
Yeah, but this is the point I want to bring up. The exact version of what happened, let's put that aside right now. We know that he said something much more firmer than what he usually says.
Which is, take everything.
We know at the very least he said something much more firmer than what he usually says. So then Moody's, which is the big agency that rates credit, does credit rating.
Okay.
Which is how easily businesses and individuals can access money, basically. How easy it is to get credit. Moody's downgraded the U.S. credit rating.
Oh, right.
Now, to me, it's pretty clear that these two events, there's a correlation. That the first time the president shows a spine in a meeting where he is not going to back down, perhaps, we'll see in the final version, but gave the appearance that he was not going to back down and he was going to tax hedge fund managers, he was going to tax corporations at a slightly higher rate, he was going to close those loopholes.
Right.
Moody's downgrades the credit rating. Now, this is what's interesting, because I've been watching CNN. The bobbleheads always talk about the market like it's a force of nature. Like no one actually controls it.
It's like space.
Oh my God, the stocks are going down again. Why is it happening?
Comet.
It's like they're witnessing lightning or a tornado.
A comet, like I said.
Or a comet. That's interesting just because all the stock market is a tool used by rich people to keep themselves rich.
Right.
And it also has a byproduct of occasionally generating wealth for massive amounts of people.
Meh.
And that's capitalism. That's theoretically how capitalism is supposed to work.
Sure.
It's not how it's working anymore. We have hypercapitalism now. What hypercapitalism is doing is generating wealth for a very small group of people at the top, and it's keeping them rich, and it's stealing the wealth from the bottom, and it's feeding the top.
Okay.
This is interesting because when they talk about the stock market, they never relate it to political events that are happening. This morning when they said, Moody's has downgraded our credit rating, they never linked it to the fact that President Obama said something that they might perceive as threatening, and it might be a form of punishment or economic terrorism.
Right.
Depending on how you want to frame it.
Yeah.
But they just keep referring to the stock market as though, like, again, it's a comet or something.
I saw that and I just assumed, because I'm more naive than you, I was like, I assumed it was, they lowered it because if we don't raise the debt ceiling, it's a catastrophe.
But here's the interesting thing. So on CNN, they have a correspondent on, and they asked her point blank, does anyone actually think the U.S. isn't going to pay their bills? And she went, no one thinks that. They're going to strike a deal at the last second.
Right.
And, I mean, this is me interjecting. It's probably going to fuck poor people,
yep.
whatever the deal is. But no one seriously thinks. China isn't sitting there wringing its hands thinking they're not going to pay us back.
Where's my money?
We're going to pay them.
Right.
The U.S. has never defaulted. And it has shut down before, but it's always paid its bills to its foreign debtors, But that was just interesting to me. So they know it's not actually going to happen. They know that the U.S. isn't going to default on its bills. Yet they're downgrading it anyway. So to me, that's a pretty direct threat.
Right.
Like, do it fast or we'll run this thing into the ground. And then they turn around and they call themselves patriots.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? Like the Republicans say it, we love the country so much. That's why we're trying to bring it down to a screeching halt.
You clearly did not see their flag lapels and flag ties.
Right. Like, patriotism is more than wearing your stupid little flag lapel.
Right.
It's not running the economy into the ground.
They jizz red, white, and blue into poor people's mouths.
You know what's patriotic? Not threatening the president when he attempts for a split second to not fuck elderly people by cutting their Social Security payments.